Hello, all you scaredy cats and kittens, and welcome to the Two Scaredy Cats podcast, where we talk about all things strange, unusual, and paranormal. We're your hostess with the mostest. I'm Stacy.
And I'm Kara.
So, Kara, what did we do 2 weekends ago? We've been hanging out for the past 2 weekends, and where did we go last weekend? What did we do?
We
went to Pittsburg.
Yep, we went to Pittsburg.
Yes.
And we went...
And while we were there...
Yep, we went to West Virginia Penitentiary.
Yep, very good. So before we got to the penitentiary or went to that evening, we decided we were going to take a little side trip because it was on our way, and we decided it would be a nice break for our legs. And we stopped at a place called Salt Fork State Park, right, Kara? And that is a park that apparently Bigfoot has been spotted at many times. He likes to hang out there, apparently. So we went on one of the trails where people have spotted him over the years to see if maybe we could get a glimpse of him, or just to check it out in general, just to see what it's all about. And I must warn you all that if you decide to go on this trail or whatever, to be very careful, because A, it's in the middle of nowhere, which we did not realize right away. And B, you're not going to have a cell signal because the property where this particular park sits is surrounded by the Amish community in the Ohio area. And they don't like to have cell phone towers on their property. So within like the 10-mile radius around there was no cell service. So we were relying on information that we had to get us there, to get us back out of there. And it ended up taking us a totally different way on some very scary areas that were, where there was like hardly nobody, and they were on gravel roads, and it was very, very scary. The trail that we went on was kind of in a secluded area of the park, I guess you could say, which makes sense for why Bigfoot might hang out there, right, Kara?
Yeah. There's lots of Bigfoot.
And when
Bigfoot activity there.
Right. Yeah. And when we pulled up to this area, it was a little bit hard because there's like a couple trails in that general area, and it was hard to figure out at first which one was it. But then when we pulled up there and we saw there was a memorial for a girl, a teenager that had passed away while climbing around on the rocks there, or that particular like cave area there, ledge, who fell to her death. There was a memorial there, and there were tons of signs everywhere about not going, off on your own and exploring the area because it's dangerous. So we go on this trail, and at first it starts off like any trail you would expect to be on, it's nice, cute, wooded. There's little squirrels and chipmunks running around, birds are chirping, yada-yada-yada. And we start going a little deeper in, and it's not a very long trail either. I mean, this is like a kind of a quick kind of trail. But as we're walking along there, the trail starts to get smaller and smaller as we go. And there's like a ravine on the one side, like a 10-foot, I want to say 10 or 12-foot drop on the one side, because during, I would assume, the spring months and when they have a lot of rain in that area, there's a nice waterfall up by where the cave area is, and it feeds into this like little river creek bed that sits there next to the edge of the trail. So if you are going to go hiking there when it's wet and, in the cooler months, please be careful and make sure you have the proper, walking boots and stuff, attire on, so you don't get hurt. And if it's raining, I really would not even bother to try to take that trail, because A, you're going to get washed out by the water, or B, most of the trail will be washed out by water, but you also have to worry about yourself, like slipping and falling.
Yeah.
It would be very dangerous in the rain, don't you think, Kara?
Yeah, it looks like it'd be very steep and stuff.
Yeah.
And I mean,
yep. So there were...
someone died there, so...
Yeah, right.
But it's not even that
so
long,
part of
the trail.
No.
It was very short.
Yeah, it was weird.
Like, and maybe, like, if you were, like, trying to, like, rush it, you probably do, like, 5-10 minutes and be back. Like, it took us a while because it was so steep.
Of course.
But...
Yeah, I mean, you got to be careful because, like she said, there was areas where, you're basically hanging off the side of a cliff in some sections.
And those, like, parts of the trail was, like, falling into the riverbed because of, like, erosion's a thing.
Yeah.
Like, there was a tree, too, that was,
time.
like, half of its roots were in the...
Yeah, the middle of the trail. So we had to use the tree roots as steps, basically, and they were very steep to get around the trail, to get back onto the trail. It was, like, crazy. So we're on this trail, and, we're going back there. And like I said, it's getting smaller and smaller as we go along. And like she said, it was falling apart in some areas. And there's, like, a platform at the very end of it where you can look back to see where the little cave kind of indention area is. It's a really neat area, though. I mean, it's very pretty back there. It would be even neater if it had rained and there was, like, a waterfall going on. But while we were back there's signs everywhere that says, do not go beyond this point, to be very careful, steep ledges, you will fall. We see 2 people back there climbing around, and we're thinking, oh yeah. So we're like, well, maybe we should try and get back there. But after a few seconds of looking and realizing that, I don't need to break a hip or crack my head open on the rocks below, because not only was it like a deep 10-foot drop off the edge of where this trail was, but there were also tons of rocks and limbs and fallen trees and stuff and debris that I would worry about, getting injured or something like that while you're doing all that. So we went, did that, and then we came back, and we, the lake sits to, like, the left side of where this little secluded area is, and it's beautiful there. We watched a heron come in, and there was some other waterfowl that were, there on the lake and all that. And while we were standing there, we hear the weirdest noise ever, didn't we, Kara?
Yeah, it was, I think it sounded like a dog. There was a dog barking, and then it sounded like the dog was drowning. Like, there was, like, gurgling noises, and just stopped. It was so weird.
It was the weirdest thing I'd ever heard ever. Because it was so quiet up until that point. I mean, sure,
and
you're
like,
heard,
okay, there's a dog barking.
Yeah, you
and
heard
then it just
birds
starts
and
making
that.
those weird noises.
Stopped. Yeah. And it stopped. And all of a sudden you heard, like, this gurgling, or almost like a not a scream, but like a growl or something.
It sounded like it was, like, drowning. That's what it sounded like. A dog drowning. Like, it was like...
It was... Yeah. It was really weird. Yeah. And... yeah, so at that point we decided, well, we better get the heck out of here because I don't want to know what was going on with that. So we get into the car, okay? Keep in mind, I was supposed to have a SUV this weekend because we had a lot of stuff that, we were also doing a craft fair thing, and I had stuff that I had brought to sell, and we had a lot of, stuff, and she had all her photograph equipment, and we had all the stuff in the back. Well, I ended up getting a Corolla, okay? So, it's not an SUV, so... we're going to leave, and we had lost the GPS satellite for our phones, and the only thing we had to go by was the old map that they had pulled up when we got there. Well, it's taking us on these back roads that are all gravelly, and you're, like, in the middle of nowhere. There's, like, cows and sheep and very few houses, and it was just really, intense and scary. And these roads, because they were so gravelly, and I was in this stupid Toyota Corolla that, I could only go 22 miles per hour, and this road's only supposed to be 3 miles long. Well, the 3 miles going 22 miles per hour ended up taking us about 45 minutes, because there were some times when I couldn't even go 22 miles per hour because my tires would start spinning out on me. And it was just insane. So these 3 miles that should have taken us maybe 15 minutes, if even that, ended up taking 45 extra minutes. So... but yeah, so if you do decide to go, make sure you download your map before you, get there, so you know how to get out. Like, and make sure you go on a major expressway.
It took us, we could have went back on 70.
A really
that would have been the easy way.
Right.
Because we were going to Pittsburgh.
Yeah, but it didn't.
From Salt Fork State Park. I don't know if you said the park. I don't think you did. But it was Salt Fork State Park, and it's like the Bigfoot capital of Ohio. Okay? They hold like the longest running Bigfoot conference is here in Salt Fork State Park. I want to go back for like one of their conferences.
Yeah, no, I think that'd be cool. Yeah,
check it out and hear.
I want to go to the Ridge.
Yeah, there's Bigfoot Ridge.
Get back to the Ridge.
That's like a primitive campground
that sounds
where
cool.
Bigfoot likes to hang out. You know.
Yeah, we should go camping there. That'd be cool.
I want to go. I bet we can convince Dad to go camping there.
I bet he would go camping there. Yeah, it's not that far away.
Yeah, and it's like an actual state park, so it's like decent.
Yeah,
we can go
perfect.
Hunt. We can go out at night and go Bigfoot.
Yeah,
hunting.
there you go.
We'll bring Chris. He's got his thermal phone.
There you go. All right, bring him with us. Yeah,
we can find him. We'll find him this time.
Okay.
But anyways, yeah. So, but just go back on 70. Do not take the back roads to Pittsburgh or anywhere up that's like past Pittsburgh.
Yeah. Do not listen
go back
to your
on
phone
70.
if she tries to reroute you to
go back
not
the way
a major
you came,
expressway.
because it took us the worst way possible.
Yep.
That we were if we broke down, we were just gonna die.
Yeah, there was like nobody else there. We couldn't
Other
call
than Amish
anybody.
people.
Right, and I was worried about the Amish mafia, so, I was like, I'm not getting out of my car to go, knock on a door and be the Amish mafia, and they won't, decide to take us out. So anyway, that was our adventure earlier in the day. So then we get to our hotel, which was fine, and we decide that we wanted to do a flashlight tour. Oh, I meant
it's West Virginia State Penitentiary. I keep getting it mixed up with the Eastern State Penitentiary.
I know. Yeah, that's a totally different thing.
I want to go there, but
psychiatric.
That's also
that place
it's in
is
Pennsylvania.
Cool. Yep, that's like a psychiatric ward. This was actually a prison. So,
but
anyway.
West Virginia, not Western State.
Yes. Yep. Sorry. Yep. Sorry. All right. So anyway, here we go. So the West Virginia Penitentiary is located in Moundsville, West Virginia. So in 1866, the state of West Virginia purchased the 10-acre site in West Virginia for the state prison. Now, keep in mind that when they purchased this site for the prison, it was during the Civil War, and West Virginia had claimed itself as its own state at this time. Like before that, it wasn't. It was part of Virginia, so they claimed themselves as their own state. So the site was convenient for this particular place because it was only 12 miles away from Wheeling, West Virginia, which was the capital at the time. So the prison is a gothic design, and that was made of stone. It had turrets on it. Those are those like circular parts that stick out on buildings. It had battlements, which if you've ever seen pictures of the cathedral, the Notre Dame Cathedral, they have battlements on that. And they're these special kind of arches that connect the roof of the building. And they also had what they call lannet windows, which gave it the appearance of a fortress, which kind of makes sense because, it is a place or fortress or prison to keep all these, men who've done bad things and women who have done bad things inside of. So, it basically is like a fortress. It was constructed with the help of the inmates, using their inmate labor. So the first structure to be built was the North Wagon Gate, which we're going to talk about later because that is the site of where all the hangings took place during the time when the prison was doing hangings. The facility finally opened its doors in 1876, and at that time it only housed 251 inmates. Now, during the 1900s, the prison had several shops that they opened up that the inmates would work at. And these shops were places where they would make stuff like furniture, maybe they would bake goods to sell to the general public, and other little shops like that. And the money that the inmates made from selling these services and goods helped keep the prison self-sufficient, which means that all the money went back into the prison to help pay for, improvements and stuff to it. So during this time, the conditions at the prison were very good. Morale was high. People were happy with the way things were going. So in 1921, with things going well, a prison coal mine was opened up about a mile down the road, and some of the inmates would go and work at the coal mine, which helped with the facility's energy needs. And this actually saved them thousands of dollars on energy costs because they were, able to get their own coal and stuff to use to heat the facility in that. So during the 1950s, the jail began to deteriorate a little bit, and they started to have their first experience with overcrowding, and it began from that point on to become a major problem over the years. During this time, they were putting 3 inmates in a 5x7 cell. Now, when you think about this, they would have, if you've ever been in any of these cells, and we'll have pictures up on our Instagram page later on in the weekend, but these 5x7 cells were not very big for 2 people, let alone 3. So your first 2 people, there are 2 bunk beds in there, and there'll be like a toilet, and then maybe like a little sink area, and that's it. That's all that was in there. So you'd have the 2 guys on the side that would be in the top and bottom bunk, and then your third guy was on a floor in an air mattress. So by 1986, the prison was having really major problems, not only with the overcrowding, but security was very loose at this time, and they said that inmates were just walking around freely in the actual building. None of the doors were locked anymore because the inmates had picked them all, and they were broken. Basically, the locks were broken on it. They were having plumbing issues. The bathrooms weren't working right. A lot of times they were leaking, over flooding. They had insect infestations going on, lice and all that kind of fun stuff. And they were very overcrowded. They had over 2,000 inmates in that building at that time. Now, remember, when they first started out, they only had 200 and something inmates. So that is basically 10 times the amount of people in that building. Also, to note that they also house women in this prison, not up in 1986. Usually, I think it was like around the 40s or 50s that the women got moved to their own prison. But before that, there were women housed in the same prison as the men, but they had their own separate area. It was like basically blocked off from the men, and they had their own like cafeteria they ate in. They had their own places where they did their jobs, whether it was sewing, helping sew shirts for the men that live there and stuff like that. But yeah, so there were also women that were housed there for a while. Not a lot, but there was like maybe 50 or 60 women that were housed there. Also to note, their yard where the inmates would go to exercise, the exercise yard, because they had such a problem with riots and people escaping. Around the perimeter of their exercise yard on the very top, they had this special barbed wire that they had personally installed from the people at Gillette Razors that had razor blades. And I'm not making this up. I'll show pictures. We took pictures of... You saw this, remember?
Yeah.
The weird razor blades that were on the end of it at the top.
Oh, yeah,
it was to keep...
fence.
Remember that? Yeah.
It was like from Gillette or something, right? Didn't they say that?
Yeah, the Gillette, razor company. And they said that they were these special razors that if they tried to climb over it, it would slice into their muscle further. The more they climb, it was, So, there was that also that they had installed to help discourage people from rioting and trying to escape, because that was an issue at this particular prison. So, like I said, by 1986, they were having all these problems. So, in 1986... the West Virginia Supreme Court ruled that the confinement of 3 inmates to a 5x7 jail cell was cruel and unusual punishment, and over the next decades, the population was reduced. So by the time the facility closed a couple years later in 1995, they only housed about 600 to 700 inmates, which is still more than what they started out with back in the 1800s with 200 and something men. So during the 119 years that the prison has been around, 998 men have died in this prison. 36 of those were from homicides. 94 men were executed at the prison, and 89 of those executions were by hangings. And the hangings took place in the years of 1899 to 1959. Now, these hangings that they would have were open to the public, and this happened all the way up until 1931, when a particular hanging happened that changed all of that. So on June 19th of 1931, there was a gentleman by the name of Frank Heyer who was being hanged for murdering his wife. Now, before I go into the whole story about that, keep in mind that when they would have these hangings, it was like a party back then for them. They had concession stands that were open that they would sell drinks and stuff for, and the people from the surrounding town would come and they would like party. They would have music playing and stuff before they would hang these people on the gallows there. So our friend, the gentleman named Frank Heyer, who was going to be hung on this particular day, was standing up on the box to be hung when the trap door opened and he fell, and his head, because whoever had made the rope to hang him or cut it didn't cut it the correct length, because Frank was a very big and tall man, and they did the rope too short or whatever, and it ended up decapitating his head. And his head flew into the crowd, and as you can imagine, they had a PR nightmare with all these people freaking out and, people saying bad things about the prison. So after that happened, attendance was only by invitation. So some people think a reason why the prison is so haunted is because that it is actually sits on a Native American burial ground. Right across the street from the prison is a burial ground that was built by the Adena Indians, and this burial ground is huge, isn't it, Karen?
Yeah. There's when we pulled up, it was off on so we pull up you'll see the penitentiary was so creepy, and then on the right you just see this literally gigantic mound, like a giant hill, and it was a Native American burial ground, like you said, which was crazy. It was just ominous that it's just there, literally right across the street. You could literally see it from inside the prison. You could just see it outside in some of the windows, and I'm sure that.
So can you imagine being there, looking out, and seeing that all the time? That had to have made you kind of.
I don't know. It was because the time we got there, it was kind of the sun was setting, so it was extra kind of spooky, kind of looking.
It's very creepy.
The sun was setting, and it was just kind of illuminated in the background.
Yeah.
It was cool though.
It was very interesting.
I liked it.
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, it's almost, this hill is as big or as
you could walk up it too during the day. It was too late when we got there that we could we had to go to our tour, but if we ever go back, I definitely want to check that out.
I want to go back. Yeah.
I want to go back and go on ghost hunt tour. Overnight stays we'll talk about later.
Hauntings have been reported in the prison as early as the 1930s. During this time, there was an inmate was being seen walking around in the maintenance area where prisoners were not allowed to go. And the guards would see this supposed prisoner walking around, and they would set off alarms that, hey, a prisoner has escaped. So they would go through their whole rigmarole, and they would check, and all their inmates were accounted for. Nobody was missing. And when they would go back to look to see where the person was, they had disappeared. There's nothing there. So in the basement, is said to be haunted by a maintenance man who once worked there. He was said to be a spy, and he would spy on the inmates when they would come down there to do different things that, they weren't supposed to be doing, obviously. And he would report these infractions to the guards. Well, the inmates figured out who was reporting them finally. At first they thought it was other inmates, but then they realized it was this maintenance dude. So, one day when he was in the bathroom, several of the inmates got together and they ended up stabbing him to death in the bathroom. So after his death, people say that his ghost will wander around in the basement area, and sometimes people can they'll be touched by this particular ghost.
He'll grab your ankles. That's what they said on the tour. And he doesn't like men.
He likes to grab your ankles.
And he will get very aggressive with men, apparently.
Men. He will, because they're the ones that kill him. So and
then the women will just whisper sweet nothings in your ear and caress you.
Yeah, or he'll caress your hair and stuff like that. So,
I just can't believe they built him a freaking apartment.
Yeah.
It was very strange. I don't know. The place was creepy. Remember, you didn't like it down there because I wanted to go to the one side where no one else was, and you were like, "No, I don't want to go in there. That's creepy. Let's stay with the group." I'm like, "But I want to go in the spooky area."
Well, I was getting really.
I mean, there was bad vibes down there, but still, I went there for bad vibes and spooks, so I wanted my money's worth of spook.
Oh, I got them. Yeah. So, anyway, so it's also said to be haunted by a gentleman by the name of Orville Atkins, who was condemned for kidnapping a minister and then killing him. So, this is another person that had their execution botched. So he was going to be getting hung. He's one of the people that got hung there. And they were putting the noose around his neck. And there was an assistant there that was helping pull the lever to drop the little wooden box that they stood on, in order to hang them. And he got a little nervous and he was excitable. And he accidentally pulled the lever too soon. And when the guy fell without the noose being on, it ended up breaking his legs and some other parts of his body. And they didn't care. They felt that, because he had done what he had done and he was supposed to die anyway, they just scooped him up and, drug him back up onto the galley again and, made sure the box was shut this time and Nervous Nelly wasn't anywhere around, and they put the noose back on him and did it again, and this time it ended up killing him.
That's messed up.
I know, isn't that is messed up. So people say that with this gentleman Orville, you can hear footsteps of like somebody who's nervous pacing back and forth in that area. And then there's the North Hall, which is where the worst offenders in that facility were placed. And this is like the worst of the worst were there. And they spent a lot of time in, confinement there. They really weren't allowed to go out very much and stuff. And there was a gentleman there by the name of William Red Schneider who was convicted of killing his parents and dismembering their corpses after they had been killed. Red was disliked by many of the inmates that lived there with him. And he was always constantly getting into fights with people about different things, So, in the end, he was in front of his cell when he was attacked by several inmates, and he was stabbed 37 times, and he died right in front of his cell. The hall has been the site of many strange things that have happened there. From photographic anomalies, like when people take photos, things, get messed up on the camera, to the point of your camera not working at all. Cell doors can be heard banging shut, and I think, didn't we hear like a cell door shut while we were there? I can't remember or not. And equipment malfunctions happen, like when you're trying to take pictures with your cell phone, or a flashlight might not work properly. And then finally, there is the Slender Man, or Shadow Man, sorry, that lurks around. I know, whoops, wrong person.
Shadow creature.
Right. Shadow Man lurks around in the hallway near the cafeteria. Now, the Shadow Man, the people that work there believe, is actually a Native American who's upset that they built this prison on their land. And they said this shadow figure kind of looks like a Native American in build, and that's why they think it's probably Native American in nature. And some of the things that, happen is you'll feel like you're being watched in that hallway. Different people have seen the apparition of him. He's kind of see-through. He likes to lurk around there, and just make people feel intimidated and scared. But while we were there, we were on our little tour, and we were outside near where where they exercise and all that in the exercise yard, and we were coming back into the building to explore the upstairs where the infirmary and all that was. And all of a sudden, while we're out there, we hear what, Kara? What did we hear?
A baby cry.
It was really weird.
It was very strange,
yes,
just because of where we were.
Yeah.
Like, it would sound like it was out. So we were with a group of people from the tour, and we were, like, basically in a walkway, and I think we were going upstairs. Is that where we were? We're about to go up the stairs.
Yes,
we were about to go up the stairs to another part of the place, and as we're walking in, we all stopped because we heard, like, what sounded like a baby crying. But it sounded like it was back outside where we originally were. Like, it was, like, a little bit off to the side.
Yeah. And
we all, like, were looking around, and we asked, we were like, did you guys hear that?
And it was and we all heard it, and it was very loud.
It sounded like it was nearby. Yeah.
Right. It was
I don't know why
loud.
we keep hearing babies crying. Remember the last time? Madison Seminary, we heard the baby cry, and we got it on freaking EVP. I said MVP.
Yeah.
EVP.
Right. Yeah, we got it.
I don't know why we keep hearing babies crying, but it's creeping me out.
Yeah. I know, right? Yeah. I don't know. I guess that's our thing now. We're just going to hear babies crying. You weren't pretend there's like a ghost or anything near us. So, but yeah, so we were not the only ones though that heard that. There were several people in our group that heard that, and we were all like looking at each other like, you heard that, right? And they're all like, yeah. So we had a shared group experience with that, which was really strange because there was also a haunted, tour, a haunted house thing going on. And you could hear people from that, but it was very muffled. It wasn't.
Yeah, like you could tell when it was from the thing because it was kind of like muffled. Right. You could it sounded like it was a little bit far away because they're on the opposite side of us. Right. So, and we're hearing like a loud baby, like wah wah, like right next to us. Yeah, it was like very strange. Next to us.
Yeah, it was very weird. Yeah. And we're looking around. I mean, there was no baby anywhere near us. That's the weird part. Like, it would make sense if there was, like, a little kid, but there wasn't. It was just, like, so strange. But, yeah, it was a really neat tour. I would recommend it. Like I said, it was called a flashlight
It was the
tour.
North Walk.
And it was
the North Walk tour.
And this is only held during, like, the Halloween, September and October. And it's a special tour that they'll let you go on areas that they do not normally show on their normal tours. So, like, this is parts of the prison that you're not normally allowed to see. So it was really kind of cool. Like I said, it wasn't that much. It was like $20. So, you should go check it out. But yeah, that's all we have this week.
We didn't talk about the handprints.
Oh, yeah. While we were there, upstairs, in the infirmary area.
That was the psych ward area.
Psych.
I thought it was the psych ward area.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, because it was right outside the
glass area.
Like, people could see it. Yes. And they would talk about how sometimes when people were in that area, they could see, like, little kids' faces mushed up against the glass.
Really
remember that?
Yeah, I remember that whole part.
Yeah, it was really weird, yeah. But anyway, there were these handprints that were
in the dust.
Very dusty on the floor.
But the people said that they weren't there, like they've been there recently, and every time this guy I think it was like an investigator who comes there pretty often. Every time he comes, he documents them, and they're like, there's more and more every time, or they change places, which is very strange.
Yeah,
we got photo of. I took a photo of one on my phone.
Oh yeah,
I think you did too.
We got photos of them. Yeah, I did. So we'll post those too. There'll be a lot of pictures in the upcoming.
I will
Instagram post.
Hopefully next weekend I will be going to another cool place for some. I'll be talking about. Hopefully, if all my plans work out and we get to go to this place, it'll be interesting for more scary content. Some first-hand accounts.
Yep. So hopefully.
Me and Savannah.
Yep.
Hopefully. I mean, as long as everything goes according to plan, we should be able to drive out there because we'll already be in that area. I'm not gonna say it because just in case it doesn't happen, because I want to get everyone's hopes up because it's a pretty nifty place that I've been wanting. This place has been on my list to like go and check out, and we're just gonna go because they're having a special event during like Halloween. Hopefully,
you have to tell us.
I will tell us about it on the next episode that we're gonna have.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I think that's all we have really. Hopefully you learned something. Remember, don't go drive on gravel roads. Just go back onto I-70.
Yep. Don't listen to your stupid GPS, or don't listen to
if she tries to tell you to go down some scary roads in Amish country, do not.
Yeah, don't
just go back to the park and get back on 70 and drive out that way because it is not worth it.
Exactly.
That was scary, and we were on that for like so many miles. I felt like.
Yes, yeah, it was a lot, way more than it should have been. Honestly, if you ask me.
Yeah, it was very strange. And a lot of it wasn't paved. I don't understand why they're not paving roads out there.
I don't understand either. Probably because it's unincorporated property. They don't have to pave it. It's cheaper for them to leave it gravel.
Probably. Well, it's probably because there's horses that go on it. And trucks.
Right. Well, they don't have the state or the city or whatever is out there come shovel their driveway for them like we have. You know that, right? That's why it's gravel. So their buggies can roll over it in the winter. But anyway, All right, enough about that. So that's it for this week. Stay tuned for next.
And yeah, and
in 2 weeks.
And if you enjoyed our podcast today, follow us on Instagram at Two Scaredy Cats Podcast, and please be sure to leave a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. It really helps the show get discovered. And tune in 2 weeks for a new episode. And to all our scaredy cats and kittens out there, remember, curiosity didn't kill these two scaredy cats.